Did you love listening and hearing that? That is absolutely fabulous. It's delightful, and we thank Laura Lee for playing the piano and for Kamala and Lanny for putting it all together. Thank you, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sally Watts, and it's my pleasure to be your service leader today. I'm joined today with Catherine Hemmons, who will be doing our Joys and Concerns. I've got Jim McDermott behind the camera, and Jay Gutler, who is ever popular over there on the computer studying what he's supposed to be doing next. So thank you, thank you. And remember, everybody, as you're watching this, if you need to stop it, this is a recording, you can hit stop, go get a cup of coffee, just come back, okay? Don't forget to come back to us. So today is June 14th, the day you're listening to our service. And if you live in and around Florence, we hope you'll stop by at noon today and bring everything you need to do to have your own little picnic in our backyard. Asking people to bring your own food, your own beverage, your own chairs, your blankets, whatever it is you would like to do, and let's have a nice picnic. We'll reconnect and reacquaint in person today. Are there any other announcements? Yes, Rosemary is creating another summer solstice at St. Andrew's Episcopal Church at 11 a.m. on June 20th. Right, Catherine? June 20th. It will be at 11 a.m. as we walk the labyrinth. And she's always creating a wonderful experience for you. So we invite you to join us, 11 o'clock on the 20th. And also, we've had our board meeting last week, and we had our general meeting last weekend. And I want to welcome our newest board members, Darlene Norwood, who will be our secretary, Catherine Hemmons in the audience here, and Jay Gutler. Thank you all for coming on board as our newest part of the leadership team starting July 1st. With special thanks to those that are going off the board, John Raimondo, Jim Negri, Nin Bobo, and Lynn Ann Kogan. Thank you all very much for being a part of the success we share today. And finally, we have selected the following as our community partners to share our offering each week starting July 1st. This is not in any particular order. But they are going to be Florence Food Share, Habitat for Humanity, Friends of Florence. Some of you may remember it used to be called the Cancer Van. It's the transportation going back and forth to Eugene for those who want to have their cancer treatments. Yeah, KXCR, Food Backpacks for Kids, and Sayusla Outreach Services. So great news. Thank you all for voting, and we'll start that July 1st. So this time I invite Catherine to come forward. We're going to light our chalice, and I share these words written by Melanie Davis, titled, A Spark of Hope. If ever there were a time for a candle in the darkness, this would be it. Using a spark of hope, kindle the flame of love, ignite the light of peace, and feed the flame of justice. And I also invite Catherine back to the pulpit as we continue our service with Joys and Concerns. I think she has a reading, and then the musical interlude, etc. So, Catherine?
Good morning, everyone. This is the part of our service that we share our joys and concerns. We do this to strengthen our connection with each other, sometimes to release what may be fermenting inside us, causing pain or sorrow. Sometimes just saying it can change our relationship with something we are wrestling with. Sharing a joy, a pleasure. Joy and pleasure bubble up undaunted, regardless of opposing forces in the world. It is what heals us. Remember, you can share a joy or concern on the FOOF website and someone will pass it on to me. And Sally is here to drop shells into the cleansing water. I have a couple things today.
Okay, I've got the shells.
All right. First, I have a joy. It has been a pleasure connecting with those I have been calling on the care committee list. Some of them I would have never had a chance to speak with because our paths just didn't cross. It's really great. I love you guys. You really. And I really appreciate the other callers who have stepped up to help with this process. Helen, Patty Godwin, Linda Coulter-Bear, and Sally. It reminds me to ask and accept help for myself and not spread myself too thin.
Yes.
So I appreciate all of you. And a couple of a sorrow and a concern. As some of you know, our beloved Jim Negri went to be with his brother in his final stages of cancer. He is grateful to be with his brother at this time. And as you can imagine, the process can be emotionally crushing at other times. So one for Jim and one for his brother.
Big one.
Yes. And a concern. A shout out to Don G, Big Don. He is in peace health at the moment, dealing with some undisclosed issues, but boy, we hold you close. We really hold you close, Don.
In Eugene.
Pardon me?
He's in Eugene.
Oh, he's in Eugene?
He's in Eugene.
Oh, at the Peace Health in Eugene.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for saying that.
Yes.
Okay, so people just don't start going over
Yeah,
to the one
don't
here.
go one here.
Okay, thank you. And next, do you have anything, first of all, a joy or concern?
No.
Okay.
I'll get some for next week.
Okay.
Sally, speechless? Come on.
Sally is speechless.
So I have a reading, and it's from Liz James. She runs the UU Hysterical Society on Facebook. She's great, I love her posts. And this is from a current article in UU Magazine. Religion isn't located in theology texts filled with sophisticated concepts. It is located in daily life. And daily life is about making it through the day, being more patient with your kids, paying more attention to your spouse, as your spouse is telling you about his or her afternoon, really noticing the changing seasons outside, maybe for the first time. Oh, it's also hearing your own story, or in hearing your own story, I like this one. Hearing your own story in a friend's words over a cup of tea and making a real connection. Knowing that what you're feeling, they're feeling. You know, there are those universal feelings that connect us. So often the language of life is that simple. The language may not be sophisticated, but it is universal and it touches people where they live. The shortest words are the most real. Thank you. Me too. I'm sorry. And I love you. Thank you. And the final? We're going to segue into our musical interlude. I ask that the lights be lowered as Jay plays a pre-recorded musical interlude. An original piece by our beloved Jeff Lovejoy titled In My Arms.
music is a wonderful way to get grounded for our very special guest speaker, Kari Gottfried, who created a 3-part summer series focusing on the living traditions we share, drawing from many sources. Today, she will share her thoughts on the words and deeds of prophetic people and the wisdom we gather from the world's religions. I invite you to get quiet and sink into what this young woman is about to share with you. It's quite lovely. Kari.
Like most couples that join Unitarian Universalism as young adults, it was only when my parents had me that they realized they wanted to find a faith community to raise me in. One without dogma, a place where I would be welcome, free to question and learn and grow in a supportive community of like-minded seekers. It also helped that the nearest UU church was just a few minutes from home, and several of their friends had already invited them to visit. Once they did, they fell in love, and the 4 of us, my parents, my sister, and me, started going to church. Instead of typical Sunday school religious education classes, our gatherings consisted of religious exploration classes, where we learned about world religions, healthy relationships, and as we grew older, our own values. In middle school, I went through the coming of age program that nearly every UU youth goes through, a chance to claim for ourselves the faith that we were raised in. By the end of the year-long program, not everyone has made that choice. Some realize that their connection to God or a higher power is much deeper than they knew and want to explore that in a different faith setting. Others decide that, for now at least, organized religion isn't for them, and discover other ways to deepen their spiritual and theological beliefs. For me, coming of age was a celebration of the gift of Unitarian Universalism that I had been given by my parents, and when I truly embraced the faith as my own. But even after that year, after I was able to explain my own beliefs, I realized that I still struggled to describe Unitarian Universalist theology outside of just reciting the 7 principles. In my UU communities, I was frustrated by the lack of attention given to our own faith's theology. As I've spent more time learning about Unitarian Universalism in the past few years, I've finally begun to understand how varied the inspiration that we draw on in our faith truly is. On a national level, we as UUs know this. That is why at the 1984 General Assembly, Unitarian Universalist delegates adopted 5 sources to serve as a statement of the living traditions that we share. These sources were amended in 1995 to include a 6th source of earth-centered traditions, and again in 2018 to affirm gender-neutral language. These sources are proof of our living faith, one that draws on inspiration from all corners of the world, one that welcomes all and challenges us into better ways of being. I draw on the 6 sources in every sermon that I write and in my own personal theology. Because they are so varied and important, I don't want to spend just 1 week talking about them. This is the beginning of a 3-part series on the 6 sources. Each month this summer, I'll focus on 2 of the sources, what they are, what they mean to me, and how they interact with each other to live as part of our shared faith journey. The sermons work well on their own, but I encourage you to watch them all to gain a greater understanding of the sources that influence all that we do. There are a lot of ways that the 6 sources coupled together can be interpreted. I begin this week with the 2nd and 4th sources, words and deeds of prophetic people, which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. And wisdom from the world's religions, which inspires us in our ethical and spiritual life. Let's start off with prophetic people. Of course, prophetic people are theologians, spiritual leaders, and wise ancestors. But the Reverend Runwa Hamami notes that to be a prophet is to witness to what is sacred, and to move people closer to what her Muslim roots would call a divine will. The language prophetic people, as beautiful and inspiring and alliterative as it seems, is actually very new to this faith. In 2018, when I attended our association's General Assembly in Kansas City, Missouri, there was a vote to change the wording of this source. The original wording, instead of prophetic people, was prophetic women and men. That phrasing, women and men, is important. In the 1980s, when the sources were being discussed, it was women who fought for that. In a time when men were still centered, mankind, brotherhood, he and him as the norm, it was a victory to have written women and men. And in 2018, it is easy for me to see why the change had to be made. In a time when we are finally recognizing the non-binary, gender-fluid, and genderqueer people who have been a part of our history and continue to be a part of our faith, it was clear that people was a much more descriptive and accurate term for the prophets we were claiming to draw our inspiration from. Language evolves. We evolve with it. Although the singular pronoun they has indeed been used for centuries, it is only recently that we have been able to recognize it as someone's personal pronouns. The non-binary and gender non-conforming people I know that use they, them pronouns have expressed relief to find a space that they feel comfortable in when their pronouns are respected and they are recognized as their whole selves. And many of those people who I know and love inspire and uplift me. Their words and deeds do challenge me to confront powers and structures of evil. They inspire me to act with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. They are not women or men, but they are prophetic. Changing the wording of our source to include them as prophets, as well as many ancestors who do not lie within the gender binary, for they have been with us forever. Changing that wording makes the sources we draw our inspiration from that much richer. Reverend Wanwa says that prophetic Unitarian Universalism includes words and deeds that challenge and dismantle what are the real sins of this world: racism, heterosexism, classism, ableism, and colonialism. But more than that, she says, prophetic Unitarian Universalism not only interrupts the ways these sins have violated our world, it also advocates for and creates something new to honor the sacredness that has been denied. Changing the narrative is what prophets do. The prophets in the 1980s that advocated for the rewording to center women in the source were changing the narrative on the masculine dominant culture. The prophets today who advocate for a broader understanding of gender are changing the narrative to affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person. And another way I have seen prophetic people showing up in our world, another way I have seen prophets changing the narrative, is in the movement our country is in right now. The manifestation of hundreds of years of terrible pain and suffering by Black people at the hands of white supremacy, in both obvious and less obvious ways. A prophet witnesses. A prophet interrupts. A prophet advocates. And have we not seen our prophets doing just that in these past few weeks? In the youth who are organizing for a better future. In the adults who are fighting against the powers and structures of evil they have spent their whole life entrenched in. In the elders who lived through the civil rights movement of the 1960s and are still active today. Our association hosted a national vigil last week. It's available on YouTube if you missed it. It's called #WeCan'tBreathe, a UUA virtual prayer vigil. The speakers included prophets from all parts of our faith. Our UUA president, Susan Frederick Gray, who just called for the demilitarization and defunding of police forces in a column in UU World. Ministers Carlton Elliott Smith and Michael J. Crumpler. Co-moderator of the UUA, Alandria Williams. organizers from the Side with Love campaign, Everett Thompson, and Black Lives of UU, Paige Ingram. I speak these names into this sermon to demonstrate that these prophets are here now. They are calling us to action. It is our sacred duty to listen and act. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe in the transforming power of love. How are your prophets, wherever they come from, using love to change the world? And although we may sometimes think that our faith is the salvation this world needs, we know that there are people from all faith backgrounds confronting evil. Recently, trending online was a photo of a group of protesters who many identified as Amish or Mennonite, although they actually turned out to be from a Christian denomination called the Church of God. The original premise that when a religiously conservative group like this one shows up at a protest, you know it's a big deal. People from that group have said that it is a part of their faith to turn out against oppression and stand up for the oppressed. Many Jewish leaders have reflected on the Black Lives Matter movement, sharing their support and recognizing the harsh reality of what happens when we stay silent. And in this past week, in my role as a student intern for the First UU Congregation of Ann Arbor, I attended a clergy town hall with religious leaders from around Ann Arbor, where they engaged in dialogue with the sheriff of their county on ways that their police department had used unnecessary force on civilians, and a path forward to make their police department accountable to the community. Our senior UU minister was there, of course, but alongside him on that Zoom call were dozens of other leaders from communities large and small, religiously conservative and religiously liberal, predominantly white and Black and multiracial. All of us care about this movement. In Philadelphia, clergy have been making headlines as they act as movement chaplains, providing both non-judgmental spiritual support and also as physical buffers between the protesters and police. Religious leaders, including a friend and colleague of mine, Sana Saeed, who is a Muslim UU chaplain at the University of Pennsylvania, are using their power as clergy to support and protect protesters and to bear witness. They have an interfaith group text to share information and collaborate in real time. Seeing these examples of solidarity, regardless of religious belief, brings me back to my religious exploration classes as a child. My most striking memory is that of a bulletin board we had in the hallway leading to the RE wing of my church. On it was posted what we know as the Golden Rule: treat others how you want to be treated. Surrounding those words were symbols of other religions: Islam, Christianity, Baha'i, Confucianism, and many more, each restating that principle in its own form. I learned most clearly of other religions through that idea, that in each community, no matter its beliefs and specifics, that idea of reciprocal kindness was the same. Although the historical definition of universalism concerns God's universal redemption, the term is now also used to describe the idea that there are things present in every religion, universal truths about the world and its people. We believe that by finding those truths, we can learn how to be in relationship with each other. As a child, noticing how each religion focused on kindness and harm in its own way, and now, seeing people from all faiths come together united in this cause, is proof to me of how much we can learn from the world's religions. One of my favorite things about Unitarian Universalism is that we believe that revelation is not sealed. Truth is continually evolving. What was true for your parents or their parents may only be a small part of what is true for us today. Every day we learn more about ourselves, life on earth, the universe. Prophetic people are not just those from our own faith, but from every religion and no religion. They inspire us in our ethical and spiritual lives by confronting structures of evil. Prophetic people from all the world's religions invite us into better and bolder living. In this time of deep, deep pain and courageous action, it brings me so much joy to know that our sources do not just call on ancient texts, but manifest themselves in every day of our lives, just waiting to be noticed. So, in your life, today and every day, I challenge you to notice where these sources show up.
I wrote to Kari on Friday after I heard her message the first time. So this is the second time I've heard it, and it's just as exquisite. I told her how it touched me deep to my core, and how welcomed it was at this time in our lives. I told her she created a rich connection in our faith. I shared with her that I would do my best to engage in conversations with folks at today's picnic. She wrote to say that it's so beautiful, the ways that real life is mirroring our religious values, and to have a good, safe picnic. Thank you, Kari. Our offering today and through the month is not only for our own fellowship, but for Boys and Girls Club as well. I encourage you to consider both as being worthy of your practice of giving. You can send us a check by mail, ask your bank to do it for you, now that's a concept, or visit our website and donate through PayPal or your own credit card. You can designate how much to FOOF and how much to the Boys and Girls Club, and we'll take care of the details for you. I thank you so very much. Your contributions will be received with grateful appreciation. I invite Catherine to come forward. We're going to extinguish our flame as I share the following words written by Maureen Killoran, titled, "This is the Message of Our Faith." Catherine? This is the message of our faith: to act with passion in the face of injustice, to love with courage in the midst of life's pain. This is the meaning of our chalice flame. May it empower our hearts until we are together again. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
We truly hope you are enjoying these recordings from the comfort of your own home. Please share with your friends and family. All are welcome to our fellowship to hear our messages and enjoy the wonderful music. I hope to see you at the picnic today at noon, right here at FOOF in our backyard. Let's have a conversation about Kari's message and whatever else you want to talk about. Let's keep our faith alive by being together at a safe distance, of course. So we're going to conclude our service today again with our FOOFers singing the peace song. Enjoy. Bye-bye.
I was doing a little thing with